Hello and welcome to another episode of Uncorked with Funny Wine Girl. This is Funny Wine Girl, aka Janine Luby. And I will stop saying what I say every week. I'm excited, even though I'm uber excited, because I'm recording this with a super, super special person, a very dear friend, and we're doing this on his birthday. And I'm excited because this is airing on March 31st, which is the eve of April 1st, which of course is April Fool's Day. And he is not a fool. I am not a fool. You are not a fool for listening. But April is National Humor Month. So I thought, who better to help me kick off this month than a dear friend who always makes me snort laugh. That's right. I haven't done it in years, and maybe it's because I'm losing that joie de vivre. I'm 50 now and I'm getting more curmudgeonly, so it's harder for me to snort laugh, but I do it when I'm with my dear friend Oliver. And April, I have a whole great lineup of femme fatales, a lot of female comedians who I've been able to perform with, and I hope to perform with some of them I haven't been with. But I am starting off, kicking things off with a funny friend. And I'd like to introduce and welcome Oliver Ord, or as I like to call him, Ollie. Hello, Oliver.
Hello, Janine. How are you?
I am doing well, thanks. And I should probably tell the audience, if you're a true fan, a true listener, and I hope you are, at least some of you, you've probably been thinking to yourself, I've heard that name before. Oliver has been on at least, let's see, we talked about music on one episode. We talked about movies on another episode. And Oliver was in an October issue where he was gracious enough to share his coming out story. And I have known Oliver since we're 14 years old, freshman at Bishop Hannon High School. And we've gone to concerts together. We've had fun together through the years. And he does just make me giggle. And he knows this. Right, Oliver?
I I do, and you make me giggle too. You make me laugh a lot. So I think that's why that's one of our common bonds. We just like to get together and laugh.
We
And
do.
over silly things, over just hanging out makes us laugh a
Yes.
lot.
And you know what? I did mention before that we're recording this on March 26th. Actually, there are four people in my life: my cousin Kathy Fadati, my friend Sharon's oldest daughter, Lauren, who's special to me, and my friend Melanie, and you. So four people on one day, which is pretty exciting. But I am so happy that you had time today to do this with me and share your birthday. So I would like to do a toast with you. For those of you folks who do watch on YouTube, I should mention, I always forget that, wine girl, I should talk a little bit sometimes about wine. So I am holding up my toast here to cheers to my dearest friend, Oliver. This is a wine from Argentina. It's a Zuccardi, I believe is the name of the vineyard or the winery, and it's called a Torrontés. It's considered a semi-dry white wine. And I found it as part of, you might hear me, if you listen a few times, you'll hear me mention the Chairman's Select or Chairman's Reserve, which I don't know if they have them in every state, but here in Pennsylvania, excuse me, when you walk in, these are recommendations of different wines that come from all over the world. And they're usually priced at a great range. This is only $9.99. And I'll admit, I stopped the other day hoping they had it because I had it about 4 or 5 weeks ago. I bought two bottles so that I'd make sure I had it in case they run out. So, Oliver, what are you drinking tonight?
I am not drinking wine because it is my birthday. I have a special Cosmopolitan. That's one of my favorite martinis to drink. And tonight is made with cherry vodka. So it's got a little extra kick to it and it's fun.
Ooh, cherry vodka. Well, cheers to you.
Well, cheers. Thank you. Happy birthday to me.
I'm all about celebrating birthdays, as you know. I turned 50 in September and I was like, yeah, bitches, let's celebrate me.
I'm just thrilled I didn't spill everything by holding my phone up and drinking a martini.
You are multitasking there, and I thank you for that. Yes, Oliver and we've recorded a few sessions and we laugh because sometimes there's some issues with audio. So there's like a monster in the phone.
So now I use my phone instead of the laptop because I thought that was the main issue. So I'm hoping that it's better today, but I do feel like if you see this, whoever's watching this, you see things going like, oop, where's he going? What's going on? It's just because I'm shaky and Janine makes,
Aw.
oh,
Well, I was just gonna say, if you say where's he going, we're both wearing stripes. Doesn't Waldo wear stripes? Like, where's Waldo?
Waldo. Oh, there you go. I like your stripe.
Well, thank you. I like my stripes too.
Your my
You
stripe gum,
what's that?
fruit stripe gum. Remember that?
Oh my, I was not a gum chewer when I was a kid, but that when I did occasionally, because I remember they had like the lemon and all the fruit stripe, and it was like a zebra kind of. And I do remember that. And I also remember I didn't chew it, but I remember the commercials for Hubba Bubba. Do you remember that with the cowboys? Hubba Bubba.
Certainly do. And you're still not a gum chewer, correct? You did not grow into that.
It's true. I did not grow into that, but I have, this is fascinating to listeners. I have chewed gum on occasion, and I will now occasionally when I was running. Someone had told me briefly, I forget why, that it would help. I think with my longer runs when I was doing half marathons and I was training, that it would help. I don't know if it was like if you get thirsty and you don't have water to ration your water, that would help. And more recently, I've been getting like Doublemint gum for my tummy because as we get older, we have issues. But I will say, I'm proud to report I was getting like horrible bouts with heartburn and even a little bit of acid reflux. And all of a sudden, it was around Christmas, New Year's. I was taking these Alka-Seltzer gummies at night because they would help with the heartburn, and they also had melatonin in them. And then I ran out. And as the supply chain issues have been created in a variety of fields or industries, I couldn't find them. And so I was like, oh crap, I'm without them. So I, not to bore anyone, but what's interesting or kind of weird, I will say, is that they were not on the shelves, so I couldn't buy them. And I swear, since I've stopped taking those, and I used to take like a generic Tagamet kind of thing. I've kind of stopped taking that. I don't have as many issues with heartburn. So I think it's weird, but the answer to your question is, so now sometimes instead I will chew like that Doublemint gum when I do feel like because I will admit this wine that I'm drinking now, this semi dry Torontis, is acidic. So I am partial to white wines, and often they will be acidic, and I will admit that I'll drink them, and sometimes it will feel like a knife stabbing me right in the chest, and I'm like, bring it, bitch. I'm not going to set this glass down. So sometimes I'll have the mint gum, and that actually helps me. But I think it's just weird that I don't take the Alka-Seltzer gummies at night anymore, and even the Tagamet, and I feel like I'm doing better. So I don't know. I think that's kind of weird that all of a sudden things have like, and I'm not doing anything differently in a sense of, oh, well, you must be eating healthier or whatever. No, I'm still drinking coffee and eating chocolate and having all the triggers, but it's not happening as much. Oh, and speaking of chocolate, I should mention that in honor of Oliver's birthday, I had to, because I just wanted to get on board. I had to get myself a piece of German chocolate cake because I'm just that kind of a friend, and I wanted to have cake. And since I can't be with Oliver today in North Carolina, I'm going to have cake here in Scranton, Pennsylvania.
Okay, well, a couple things. There's nothing more funny than talking about heartburn. So we've really started off this conversation on the perfect note. Secondly, peppermint is good for your tummy. I drink a lot of peppermint tea, like when I have type of issues like that. So you can tell we're over 50 now because that's the thing we talk about first. How's the weather? No. How's your indigestion? How's your heartburn doing?
Oh yeah. Well, and I got together, Sharon. Sharon went to high school with us, my dear friend Sharon as well. We got together recently. She actually had to have her gallbladder out.
Oh no.
Last week. Yeah, surgery went well, but we got together about a couple weeks before the surgery, and oh my God, anyone who happened to be hearing this, oh Jesus, we were talking about the different ailments we have, and oh my God, kids today and this and that, and oh my God, healthcare is terrible. Oh my God, we were, like I said, I've lost.
We've become our parents.
I know, I've lost my joie de vivre. My not that I was ever that easygoing. I really don't think I was, but I'm getting a little bit crustier.
It happens.
And I don't like my bread that way, by the way.
Crusty?
Yeah, I don't like crust.
Oh, when you come visit, we'll cut off all the crust. You won't see crust anywhere.
Good. If I see one crust, I'm telling you, I'm walking.
There goes our review on the whatever it's called, Yelp, I think.
Yelp. Yes. So we have a lot of laughter coming in our future because I am so happy. I'm going to visit Oliver in May. He and his husband are living in North Carolina now. They moved from New York, and I have not seen him has it been since the luncheon after your mom's service?
Probably,
for the funeral?
So July of 2020.
Okay.
Yeah,
That's
I
what
mean,
I
we've seen
thought.
each other across the airwaves, so to speak, the interwebs. But I
Mhm.
think July of 2020 was probably the last time we were physically in the same room. Yes.
Yes, that's right. That's what I thought. And I'm like, I think because and that's one thing I will say about the pandemic. And I've heard other people say this too, that they've Zoomed with friends that they would normally maybe see. And I wouldn't normally get to see you in person as much, but we've been keeping in touch through Zoom sessions. That's a terrible word, but Zoom conversations, I will say. And I feel like it
It's like a
hasn't.
therapy session.
It is like a therapy session. We laugh and we catch up on what we should each be watching on, on the different channels and the different services that they have, with the dish and the webs and stuff and the apps. I don't understand all that stuff. No, I'm kidding. I
Oh,
kind of do.
yes, you do.
I do. But yeah, I thought it was almost 2 years, but it didn't feel that long because we've been chatting like this. So I will get
Exactly.
to see Jim and Oliver in person. And of course, it's funny, before I hit the record button, Oliver was asking me about if I had any food allergies or if I have any special things I want. So I will be having my assistant fax him all of those on my wish list.
Is that Tony?
Tony, get in here. Yes, we have this imaginary assistant. There is no assistant here, but I'm so easygoing. No, I'm not that easy breezy. Not really. But I'm not, you know what? Honestly, I'm not an easy breezy person, but I'm not that difficult when it comes to food. Like, I'm really not, there's not too much that I am like, oh, I need this or that. Nah, I'm okay for the most part.
Good to know. Good to know. Now, can I ask a question? Because it's been bothering me since your introduction.
Oh, sure.
April is Humor Month.
Right.
How did that come about? And am I wrong when I say that wasn't there in May? Isn't there like a National Humor Day, or is that some Laugh Day or something? Or
World
World
Laughter Day.
Laughter Day. So those
Right.
are two different things. Okay.
They are two different. Oliver, I'm glad you asked that question. If you don't mind, I'd
and
like
that wasn't scripted.
No, it really wasn't. I'd like to expound upon that. Yeah. Okay. That's what I want to say.
That's your accent.
I'd like to expand upon that. I don't know what the hell I'm saying.
I don't know what accent it was, but it was an accent.
Okay. You know what? I do not recall, and I should have looked this up. So let me back up. When I started, I was going for my master's degree in 2006. I discovered laughter yoga. And that's when I discovered all these different organizations that promoted laughter and humor for the therapeutic benefits. And one of those is AATH, and you can look them up, aath.org, the Association for Applied Therapeutic Humor. And that's where I learned about Humor Month, which I want to say it was started by, his name is like, it's in my head. I can almost see it, but not quite. Excuse me. There was like a humor academy or something like that. And I cannot remember his name, but I believe he's the one that dedicated or started Humor Month. So I don't know for certain, but I do know that it's been observed for, like I said, I started looking into that stuff in 2006. So for at least 15 to 20 years, National Humor Month has been around, and I would bet even longer. But what Oliver asked about World Laughter Day is something that happens the first Sunday in May. And that I can tell you more about, because that was started by a medical doctor in India named Madan Kataria, because he's basically the father of the laughter yoga movement. And he started the first Sunday in May every year to celebrate laughter as just a way to unite us, get us together, and because it's such a positive thing to spread into the universe. And Oliver has been to one of my events. I used to do a World Laughter Day celebration in Scranton. Sometimes in the beginning, I would also do like a comedy show, but then I kind of like pared it down, and it was mostly focused on laughter yoga, because that was really what the day was about, just the purity of laughter. And if you'll allow me to expand on that a little bit, the difference, laughter yoga does not rely on humor. Laughter yoga is like the physiological act of laughing. I always say to people, if you would want to go for a walk around the block with your dog to, like, just get a little exercise, de-stressed if you just got off of a really, tough phone call, emotional, bad day at work, whatever, you could choose to laugh as an act, as a physiological act, and go, ha, 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 ho, ho, ho. And it makes people a little uncomfortable when they do it for the first time, because it's kind of different thing. We're used to having a stimulus or a trigger to make us laugh, like a show, a funny YouTube video or something related to humor. But when I would do my workshops through my business, Laugh to Live, I would just explain to people that there is a difference, because laughter is the act, and then humor is kind of like what we find funny. But it's also, as I posted recently on Facebook, it's so much more than that, because it's a way to cope. We can use humor in how we cope. When messages are delivered with humor, people tend to get them a little bit more easier. They pay attention to them more, which is, if you watch television or anything with commercials on it, you'll notice that there's a lot of humor being used, because it makes people just kind of pay attention more. Now, that doesn't mean they're going to remember what was being advertised, I'll admit, but humor can help soften a blow. Like if you have some kind of difficult conversation you need to have and you soften a little bit with humor, it can also bond people together. Like, let's say there's a basketball team, or, a group of people, a family who have a quote unquote inside joke, something that they laugh about. Like Oliver and I have some inside jokes, then that humor can bond people together. So humor can lead to laughter, but humor is so much more than that. And I know I just gave you more than you even asked for, Oliver.
No, that was perfect. Now, I did know a little bit more about World Laughter Day, but what I didn't connect was, you were absolutely correct that laughter, that's more of the, is different from humor. Like humor, but I can't help, as a common person that doesn't know a lot, isn't intellectual about humor and laughter like you are. I equate the two a lot. Like humor, laughter, the same thing. So I did know a little bit about that, and because I have been to one of your World Laughter Days, and you do the ho ho ho's and ha ha ha's. That's what she said. You end up laughing naturally anyway.
Yeah. And that's
just because of the silliness, or how, if you find yourself insecure about doing it, you laugh at yourself. So that's what makes you laugh.
Yeah. And you kind of laugh. I mean, I've done it for a lot of corporations, and it's like, just like anything, whether it's that activity or something else, you need buy-in from the people who are hiring you. So I've done it like Geisinger for their sales and marketing team, Prudential for their employees. When you have people buying into it and doing it, and then people look around and they're like, oh, hey, that's my manager laughing, or my boss, or, oh, that's my coworker. You're not just like, you're laughing at yourself, but you're kind of laughing at everybody together, not in a bad way, like laughing, oh, I'm laughing at you. You're laughing together. And you're right. So that's it. The idea is it's meant to be contagious. The founding father of laughter yoga, Dr. Kataria, kind of says, fake it till you make it, or people say it's like simulated laughter at first. You're kind of pretending, but typically it becomes genuine. And then the more you do it, it's actual, full blown laughter. But let me ask you, Oliver, because I know a lot of people the first time are like, what the hell is this? And I always say, if I wasn't the one leading it, because I still consider myself, I always say, I don't know if I'm an introverted extrovert or an extroverted introvert, because I can perform comedy, but if I walk into like a business mixer or card exchange, I cannot. I'm just like, I hate walking up to someone cold and just being like, hi, I'm Janine, or breaking into a conversation. So, and as a child in kindergarten, I had terrible like social anxiety. And even before that, my mother, I was telling somebody today, my mother had signed me up for a dance class when I was like 4. Now, granted, they were doing like the Farmer and the Dell, but I can remember I stood against the door and didn't even participate in class because I was just so shy. And I remember the walk home, my mom's like, we're not going to pay for that class and send you if you're not going to participate. And here's me. Okay. Like, obviously that wasn't a good threat because I didn't want to. So, and I don't know where the hell I'm going with that, but my point was this. If I wasn't the one leading the workshop and I was one of those employees, I'd be looking around, waiting for acceptance and validation. Like if my friend did it, I would do it. I would be like, this is weird. So my question to you is, because you've been to at least one of mine, how was it doing it the first time? And were you like, oh, this is weird?
Interesting question. Because it was you, and because I was around people that I went to high school with and friends of ours, I was comfortable with it. So it seemed it was absolutely fine, because I support you and I wanted to be there for you. So it was absolutely fine. If it weren't you and I went to something like that, I would have been like, what the hell is this person doing? Like, I would have been a little bit like, okay, because I am a full-blown introvert. I do theater, but to me, that's handing me a script, handing me lines to say, character, motivation, where to go, just to go out and talk to people like, oh, how's the weather? Like small talk like that makes me very uncomfortable, and I'm very bad at it and nervous. So because it was you, I was absolutely fine. And I was around people I knew and I was comfortable with. If it weren't that situation, I would have been like, out of here.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
I'm glad, but now knowing about it, I wouldn't be, because I know what's behind. I know what it leads to and stuff. So I'd be comfortable once because of you, it made it comfortable that first time. So.
Oh, thank you. I'm glad that your first time was special with me and that I was gentle.
You were my laughter virgin. No, I was the
No, you
how
were
do
the
I say
virgin.
this? I was
I
the
popped
virgin.
your laughter yoga cherry.
Thank you. See, you're so much funnier than I am. You're so clever.
No,
I need
I'm
a
being
script.
crasser. Being crasser here.
I
No.
I enjoy that crass humor though. You know that.
As far as the laughter and the humor stuff though, like I don't want to geek people out, but I totally could, because like you had mentioned, they kind of they're kind of thought of together. And when I tell people about laughter yoga, they instantly latch on to the yoga part, which has been a challenge when I've done it for years, because people they hear it. And I mean, it's human nature. We hear and then we
Sure.
latch on to what we're familiar with. So through the years, I would tell people and they'd be like, oh yeah, my daughter does yoga. And I'm like, okay, this is different. And they still don't quite get that it's yoga in the sense that it's meant to be a connection of something healthy for the body, the mind, the spirit. And with the yoga, it's like ho ho ha ha ha, like there's a lot of breath, like in and out,
Right.
inhalation, exhalation. So that's where the yoga comes in. And there are I shouldn't say probably, there are regular, I say regular and that's not the proper word, so excuse me, but there are because the regular yoga, like the Ayurvedic, I'm not going to say it right, the oh my god, hatha yoga, they have to train a lot more training. So like I don't even want people to think that I'm trying to say I have that training. I don't. With laughter yoga, it's like 2-3 days of training. But those folks who do like the other kinds of yoga, like downward dog and all that, some of them may incorporate the laughter yoga before or after, like as a warm up or a cool down. But when I've done it, it was strictly meant to be done. And when I do it, I shouldn't say it like it's past tense, I just don't do it as often anymore. It's meant to be more about stress relief, and just not doing the regular yoga poses. But when I tell people, they always latch on to that part. So
Sure.
it's been a challenge with that. But my other point was just going to be that, yeah, you can geek out, and it's really kind of interesting. Like Robert Provine, I think his name is Robert Provine, has a book called A Scientific Investigation of Laughter. And it's really interesting because it talks about how we use laughter. And, we often think of humor, what's funny, laughter, but there really are, like, humor is used in different ways. Laughter isn't always about what's funny. It can be about when we're uncomfortable, when we're nervous. It talks about something, of course, as a woman, I, honed right in on how women will laugh more at men's jokes because we want to give them that, like, oh, okay, especially if it's like a situation of power, the man is your boss or whatever, like, oh, that's a funny joke. And inside you're like, oh, I mean, and I'm not saying this from personal experience or anything.
No, not at all.
Not at all. Only now I don't do that anymore. I won't name this one particular person I'm thinking of who's always talking. He's a man, always talking, always telling stupid ass jokes. And he was telling
me,
one,
isn't it?
No, it is not. No, because I love you. This person I am not a fan of, but he was telling a joke around a couple folks and the one lady didn't laugh. And he said something about maybe she didn't get it. And here's me. Maybe she just didn't think it was funny. Of course, the other woman had to go, I thought it was funny. I'm like, shut up, bitch. Don't say that. No, to each their own. But anyway, in the book, it talks about like women laughing more at what men say and their jokes than the other way around. And that makes sense. And I know they're probably, I don't think I have a hell of a lot of male listeners, but for those who do listen, they probably like, oh, she says she doesn't hate men, but she does. I'm just presenting the reality of it. And the truth is, you look at the power structure, who have typically been the people in power, more so men. And it's that idea. And I will also say that I find that even though the narrative has been that women are more emotional and weaker, blah, 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 in my dealings over the past several years, I've really come across the sensitivity of men. So it's like that idea of, oh, I better laugh at this joke, but again, not to get off on the gender topics, but it's an interesting book because it talks about that, like laughing when you're uncomfortable, you're nervous, or laughing at someone's jokes, or even the idea of, which I think is really interesting, like anyone out there who used to be quote unquote tormented, let's say, by older siblings who would tickle them. There's a whole section on that where that actually, not to be dramatic, but is traumatic for some people, where they're like, please don't tickle me. Like, it actually brings up bad memories. And so there's really a lot around laughter and humor to be learned. And again, I'm not trying to geek out, but it's just like, we do it and we think of it as just like, oh, it's just laughter or whatever. But there's so much more to it. And it is so valuable. And all the research about how good it is for our hearts, our immune system, all that good stuff, which is why laughter yoga was started, just so that we could do more of it, more of the positive version of laughter. So, and I didn't mean to go off on a monologue there, but
no, I'm glad you did. You brought up a lot of good points. I will say your comment about, and then we'll move on to humor, but your comment about men being the weak, the emotional, you've over the past few years seen a lot more emotion of men or whatever. I'm always watching a television show with my husband, and he'll say, well, that guy is always acting like a baby. That character is such a baby. And my response is, because men are. And again, I'm a firm believer in, you can't bring up one sex or race or sexual orientation by crashing down another. We all want to be equal, right? But truth is truth. Like, men are typically children. I'm a male, and yeah, I'm a little, when it comes to certain things, we all have our things that we're strong at, things that we're weak at. But it's funny that we're watching sitcoms. I forget a few. Blackish was one of them, like the father. And he's like, he's acting like such a baby. Like, that's what my husband will say. I'm like, because that's a man. men are typically act like that. Like, that's, and of course sitcoms take that characterization of something that's honest and then just blows it out of proportion. That's what sitcoms usually do. So,
and that's what humor is: exaggerate, absurd, like,
exactly.
Make it larger so that the average person can see it. You know what I mean? Like, that's a joke, whatever. But not to cut you off, but to the point of like what you said, you can't get equality by putting like other down. But I just want to clarify here, that's not my intention when I talk about men. It's not, but it's just the unfortunate reality of like, when, I think it's changing now, but for years and for centuries or whatever, how it's been that like men were told not to show their emotions, but yet and then also it was that women are weaker, and you don't want a female leader because she's so irrational and emotional. Like, so that is, I just like, that's bullshit.
It stems from, you throw like a girl. Yeah,
exactly. So we're the weaker ones, when in fact it's just, I'm pointing it out because it's disturbing that it's been reiterated all the time that that's the reality when it's not the reality. And I just find it's interesting. Maybe I'm looking for it more, but like working with certain men and like just seeing how they respond. And it's like the ego is so fragile, and they need you to like, respond a certain way. And it's just, like I said, it's just, it wouldn't stand out to me so much or suck so much if it wasn't just like the narrative for so long was that like they were the stronger ones. And I'm like, So, but let's move on from that topic, because
let's move on. We're talking about humor.
Let's talk about what makes us laugh. What's funny?
What makes you laugh?
What makes me laugh? And so I want to back up to something you said. Well, it was actually before I pressed the record button. You were telling me about a comedian that you watched on Netflix, and we can't think of her name, but you said there were things she said that made you smile, but you didn't LOL. You didn't laugh out loud. So, so I'm bringing that up because you said, what makes you laugh? When it comes to humor, there are a lot of things that I find funny, and I will tell you that a lot of things can find funny, but it doesn't necessarily lead me to laugh. I'll hear it, I'll read it, and I'll be like, literally in my head, be like, oh, that's funny. And now maybe it's because, and this has also been researched, when people are alone, they don't laugh out loud as much. Like, so I live alone, and I watch, sitcoms. I do watch. In fact, I'm watching now that Seinfeld is like my absolute favorite show, and now it's on Netflix. Before that, I owned all the DVDs, and it's been on TBS and all that. So now that it's on Netflix, I'm watching. It's my go-to show. It's my comfort show. And of course, The Office is still my comfort show as well. So I know where all the jokes are, and I will still watch it because I think it's funny. Sometimes by myself, I will actually laugh out loud. But I know the research says that you typically, like, you laugh more out loud when you're with someone else. It's also that kind of like contagious and support. But so I find a lot of things funny that I don't necessarily laugh out loud about. But, sitcoms like Seinfeld, always make me laugh, or always, or I should say, I always find them funny. And sometimes I do laugh out loud. And sometimes I even repeat the lines because I think the writing is so funny. Elaine, my favorite character, actually, like Julia Louis-Dreyfus, you know, when they're talking about the do women know about shrinkage, the Hamptons episode. And she's like, they shrink? Why do they shrink? And, you know, the guys are like, they just do. And she's like, I don't know how you guys walk around with those things. I will like crack up and repeat some of the lines because I think the writing, again, being a little bit geeky, I'm like, oh my God, is that like clever? And just like the callbacks in that show. So I am a huge Seinfeld fan, still think it's my favorite of all shows. I do love The Office as well. And of course, here in Scranton, you know, love the local references. I did truly enjoy Schitt's Creek, but Schitt's Creek for me was in a different category only because it was also very heartwarming as well for me. Like that touched me. Like I just loved I don't know, just the tenderness of it and the fact that it made me laugh. So, and I would say, and then I'll ask you, you're the same question. One of my favorite comedians, stand-up comedians, is Jim Gaffigan. I've seen him twice in person. I did get to see, oh God, I got to see Robin Williams at the Tower Theater in Philadelphia a long time ago when I was, gosh, I think I was in my late 20s or almost 30. Now, probably late 20s. So that was a really long time ago. And he was just a genius. And again, you want to talk about so much more than, you know, again, I don't know if people kind of dismiss comedians and jokes, but half the time these people are really smart, you know, and really well trained. And Robin Williams was certainly Juilliard trained, incredibly smart, incredibly creative, just hard to contain, just a genius in my opinion. And I did get to see Ellen DeGeneres in Wilkes-Barre. Oh gosh, probably 30 years ago. And she's another person that, I mean, I know she's been through a lot lately with how she's treated her staff or whatever. And I won't even get into that because that's not relevant to me today at this point. But her comedy, I've always appreciated because she was the first woman to be called over to sit on the couch with Johnny Carson when she gave her very first stand-up appearance there, which was huge. It was so you know, I give props to anyone who's a pioneer. She was pioneer, groundbreaking. At that time, she didn't come out as gay. She was a straight woman. But still, a woman, regardless of whether she was straight or gay, was a huge deal. And it was also very funny. I've played that episode or that her monologue for Johnny Carson. When I used to teach in college, I taught public speaking, and I would make my students do as one of their speeches a comedy monologue. I would always show her on Johnny Carson. And again, and what I wanted to point out to them too is how you can be intelligent in your comedy, excuse me, because if you didn't understand words, you wouldn't get some of her jokes about, like, she did a joke about the wood being petrified and like how when she was a kid, they got her a dolly, you know, and it was like, good thing when there was a fire, she had that dolly because she was in charge of getting the washing machine out of the house. So like, if you don't get stuff, and I'm not saying if you're not smart, but you know, whatever, feel free to read into it, whatever you will. But like the audience, I prefer comedy like that. Like, again, that's just me. And I think she is, her comedy was amazing. So again, I did get to see her in person, and Tig Notaro is just dry. And now I'm going to go off now just saying the people I like, but I'm just thinking she just popped into my head because she can allow there to be silence like no one else I've ever seen. She can tell a story and let there be silence and not be afraid. And she's talked about cancer, and she's just another person who I like her style, really funny. Okay, now Oliver, your turn. Yes. You tell me what you find funny.
Oh goodness. Well, besides you,
let's talk about me for a while. No, I'm just kidding.
Again, honestly.
Your check is in the mail already. What did I tell you?
We don't have enough hours. A really quick story. This happened just before I jumped on with you to record this. I was watching, my husband was taking a nap. I was alone in the living room watching The Office because The Office, like you, it's a go-to comfort. Like it always makes me laugh. I've seen all the episodes, but yet some of them, the lines that I hear, I feel like they're new because I don't necessarily remember them, or just maybe they went by the first time. But I was sitting there and I was kind of on my phone playing a game, you know, looking up at the TV, just waiting for, you know, time to pass. And the line that was said was something, and I'm paraphrasing, of course, because again, the writing is wonderful. You know, I think that's a very smart show. And it was something like they were making fun of Michael saying that he was wearing a lady suit. And he's like, I don't think it was a lady suit. I think it was at least yes, I think it was at least bisexual. And it literally made me laugh out loud, so much so that I texted my son, who's a huge Office fan. I was like, and all I did was text that quote. And he responded like, that always makes me laugh. And he was saying about, I watched the one where Michael ran over Meredith with the car, and it's such a good one. So like, even though I was alone and I laughed out loud, I just wanted to share it with someone. And I'm like, Lucas will enjoy this. So I texted him immediately. So
I'm going to put you on pause there for 1 second. I want you to continue, but I was just going to point out there what you just said. That point is just a part of the beauty of humor. Not just does it bond us, but you want it to bond you. You know what I mean? When you do hear something funny, you want to share it, and it's that connection. So and again, much like you, it's like, when I introduce people to a show, like let's say I'm watching something funny and you say, you tell a friend, I want you want them to enjoy it because you want that connection, but you also want them to feel the way you feel. Okay, now back to you.
Yeah, I completely agree. And that's why I share everything that I watch with you. And there's many times like I'll be watching a stand-up comedian, and be like, I can't wait to see or hear what Janine has to say about her because she's so funny and I loved her, or whatever. But I love watching all types of stand-up. Like you, Robin Williams was a huge influence on me. I thought he was a brilliant and a genius, and gone way too soon than he should have been gone. But I love a lot of classic sitcoms. Like Seinfeld is a go-to for you, and I am a huge Seinfeld fan. I've seen all of them. I enjoy them. The acting is superb. The writing is great. I'm more of a Friends is my. I watched that when it came out. I was early 20s in grad school, and I just remember, and I just related a lot to the characters. And that's a show that to this day, any of those lines just really crack me up, and they're just really funny. But I also love, like you said about, I think it's Tig Notaro, is that her name?
Yep.
The silence. There's nothing like a B. Arthur stare or look in the Golden Girls, because to this day, I mean, that was done, 85 through 90, maybe that show was on for 7 seasons. Like, I know that was only 5 years that I mentioned, but I don't know the exact years it was on. And still be funny in 2022 says a lot about A, the writing, and B, the cast.
Yeah.
And B. Arthur's look sometimes, no matter who, like, it's and silent. And she can look and then the audience will be cheering and she'll just continue that look or change it a bit, and then they'll be cheering again for another minute, and it's just so clever.
There's brilliance in her. Again, not to interrupt you, but like that's a show. I'm glad you mentioned the Golden Girls. That I don't know why. I'm sure it was on in our household growing up, because my grandmother lived with us until she died, and I was like 21, 1993. She passed. I'm sure she watched it, and I'm sure I don't have special particular memories. I'm sure it was on, but I didn't appreciate it. And maybe because I was too immature or whatever, where I've over the past several years watch it more now and watch snippets on YouTube or whatever. And it amazes me how good the writing was back then, because it was progressive and it was smart. Because I mean, one thing I will say is like the sitcoms of our youth, like Happy Days, Laverne and Shirley, I could still kind of laugh at because there's some things that crack me up. But Happy Days I watch now and I just find it, and even Brady Bunch, I find it very hokey. I mean, I'm not trying to like, I still love the memories of being a child, but I can't appreciate it now. Where Golden Girls you watch now, and it is freaking smart. It is funny and sharp and just great. So, okay, back to you.
And cutting edge too with the Golden Girls. They tackled a lot of topics and made them humorous. And I know you always tell me, I'll try to be PG about this.
You don't have to.
Never go to the crotch. But a good.
I did no. I don't
good
say
penis
never.
Jokes makes me laugh.
I don't say
Golden Girls
never.
Has a lot of references. Okay.
Yeah, no, I don't say that. And you could say dick or penis. That's okay.
Okay.
No, I don't say
you.
that. Honestly, I don't say that. What I don't appreciate, and this is something, if you listen to some of my later episodes this month, you'll hear my one conversation, and I'm sure it will come up again in my other conversations, that some comedians, and especially amateur comedians, especially young as men, that's all they'll talk about. They think dick jokes are hilarious. Dick jokes are easy to write. Don't get me wrong. I've done dick jokes too. And I don't say never go to the crotch. For me, going blue, I think it's too easy. And if that's all you do, that's the only trick, you're a one trick pony, then you're not you're not doing really, in my opinion, really smart comedy. But everyone's done a dick joke. I'm not against them. So let me just say that.
Okay.
Yeah. Just not, don't make that your whole repertoire. Yeah.
An hour and a half about penis. So like, again, that's part of like my 12-year-old boy, I guess, like still like saying words like that always make me laugh and humor and stuff. So when people do and they talk about it, but again, if it's just to be raunchy, I'm not a fan. But if it's smart, I like it. Like there's just, I'm like, okay. Cause I do feel like I'm very much like, be open, be like, let's talk about everything. Who cares? And cause we can laugh about everything. Like I like a lot of comedians, like stand-up comedians that talk about things like Robin Williams did a whole spiel about a colonoscopy. And you're like, is that really like people like don't talk about that, but like he did and made it so funny because it was true. That made it even more funny to what he was talking about. So it was a really, I really enjoyed that like skit that he did when he turned 50, had a colonoscopy, and it was very funny. So I like humor like that. Let's take real life situations and like, sometimes that's funnier than just making a joke.
Well, and honestly, what you're saying though, is that's what most, I shouldn't say good comedians, but most of the most clever and the funniest should be doing. I mean, that's, you're taking real life and you're supposed to be trying to relate to the audience. And that's exactly like, I do a joke about mammograms, getting a mammogram, because that's real life. And women my age who are 40 or older, or, maybe they got them in their 30s because it runs in the family. That's, that's the pain of everyday life. Those little pains are meant to be laughed at. So like to your point about like, a dick joke or whatever, if it's done in a smart way and it's done to raise awareness about something or to open your eyes or to talk about something, that's different than someone just being like, yeah, I was screwing this girl. Like, you know what I mean? It's like, and I mean, that's screwing this girl. And, I mean, it's just like, if you just want to talk or people who get up and just drop F-bombs. And I'm not even saying like they're part of the joke. It's just like, they're just descriptors for like, 3 minutes and every other word's F. It's like, I'm like yawn, you know what I mean? It's just, so that's what but I mean, no, what you're saying, absolutely. Colonoscopy. My gosh, I'm going to get one hopefully this year. Hopefully it's on my wish, my bucket list. Oh my God. Hopefully,
I can't wait.
Hopefully if I can get them up there.
As someone who's had 3 of them, you're going to love them.
I can't wait. No, I meant hopefully as in I'm a procrastinator. I know I need to, but I mean, those are the things that quite frankly are chock full of humor especially when you write humor, you're like, and again, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to, I want you to finish your statement there, but it's funny from this side. And I'm certainly not someone who's played Vegas. My name's not up on the marquee by any means.
You haven't?
No, I haven't. I would have told you, hey, Celine, move over, honey. I'm taking your stage. No, like
I didn't get a ticket.
Obviously I'm an amateur, but still I have a mind for writing humor and I've been doing it. So I just say this from my point of view, and I have no idea what I was just about to say. I totally lost my train of
Celine
thought.
Dion got in your head and you're
no, my God, what was my point? Oh, that's what I was going to say about what's funny. When you tell people you do stand-up comedy, and again, I don't mean to be a bitch, but I know like, yeah, well, I said, I don't mean to be, I didn't say I'm not. No, because people will tell you, like, usually I hear one of two things, like, oh, you should come to where I work. There's some material there. Or like, oh, you should come out into my house. Or it's like, they, come here because there's, comedy, or, oh, hey, here's something funny. And they'll tell you a story and they'll be like, you can use that in your act. And like, you hear that and it's like, no, I mean, would you say to like a doctor or something, oh, I saw something on YouTube you might want to consider for some of the treatments for your patients? Like, no. Not that I'm comparing comedians to doctors, but it's just funny to me where like sometimes people will say, well, where do you get your ideas from? Life is full of them. That's my point on that. Like, and quite frankly, not to be rude, I don't want any of your stories because they're not mine. Why would I want to tell them? They're not mine. Right. In fact, and then I'm sorry, I didn't want to just totally monopolize, but I had an older white male, because this comes with that sense of, you want to hear my opinion on things. Nice man who I appreciate. And I won't name him, whatever, but he actually emailed me on Facebook or messaged me a whole, like he had written a monologue that I could use. from his experience at the grocery store. I'm like, oh, that's so, and he even told me where to put the pauses in. So I thought that was especially not very, well, that wasn't too condescending or patronizing at all. And of course I tell my mom these things. I love my mom to death, but she's like, well, he was probably just trying to be nice. I'm like, but was he? Like, am I supposed to be like, oh, thank you, I'll use this? And I politely was like, oh, you should try this at the open mic. I'm not trying to be an asshole, but you don't need to write a set for me based on your experience at the grocery store and then tell me where the pauses go and all that. I'm like, that's awesome. But Oliver, tell me, I'm going to put you on the spot as a man. Why do they do that?
I don't know. I don't think I do. Maybe I do. You can tell me. I kind of just listen a lot. I'm an observer. That's my acting, is observe the room. I'd rather just listen to people and take in things. I'm really not one to, like, if someone asks an opinion, that's totally different. I don't just enforce my opinion or, well, this is the way I would do it. Like, I'm just not that type of person. I don't know. Maybe it has something to do with society and the way men are seen as, like, from years ago, heads of the households, and that's, you listen to the man. Maybe it comes from that. I don't know. I don't have an answer for you. I'm sorry.
Yeah, no. And I think I do think he was probably coming from a decent place where it was like, I know she does comedy. This is really funny. This just happened to me. But like, to go so far as to write it for me and tell me the pauses and stuff. I'm like, you've seen me do stand-up. I do it, right? Unless you think I suck and totally need your material. Like, anyway, so let's not wait. We want to keep it light and happy. So I cut you off several times. So we were talking B. Arthur, The Stare, The Golden Girls. Now I want to send it back to you.
Oh, thanks. Back to you, Bill. Okay. Bill's
How's
outside.
the weather over there, Bill?
It's sunny and about 60 here. Let's see. You brought up something about, the last story you brought up about the man sending you something, but Kathy Griffin is someone that I enjoy. I've seen her probably 4 or 5 times. What I like most about her is, and again, she teeters on that, like, she pokes fun at people a little too much, but because she's so self-deprecating, and that's what I find that the most funny, like when someone can look at themselves, and I'm very much like this, I totally make fun of myself 24/7. Like, I'm always going, what an idiot. Oh, I can't believe I did this. And I can laugh at myself. And I think she does too. So like when she pokes at like certain celebrities and stuff, it's really just that's her niche. I think she really does admire these people, and like she really does like care for it. But recently she just had like cancer, lung cancer. She had it removed. She had surgery. She lost her voice, or her voice is definitely different because they nicked her vocal cord. And she was telling the story on Instagram about how the doctor was explaining something, and I don't know the jokes. I don't know what he said, but when she was done examining her, he said, oh, and you can use that too. So even she's getting like, she's like, yeah, this is my doctor telling me I can use this in my act. So like, and she was telling the story on Instagram. So, but it reminded me of that story. But I do enjoy her humor. I enjoyed Joan Rivers a lot.
Oh,
as
brilliant.
a comedian.
Another pieneer. Yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
What I admire about her, and again, not to cut off again, she was someone, did you watch her documentary?
I did. Piece of Work.
Yes, so good. And how I love how she had all of her jokes cataloged, and she was someone who would not say no to work. I mean, her work ethic up until the end was fantastic. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think Kathy Griffin folloes that. She was friends with her same way. Like, let's do it. Let's get the job done. Yeah. Let's do it. Yeah. I admire people that are really have strong work ethics, that are funny. And I think both of those ladies are very much funny. Yeah.
And with the Kathy Griffin, I got to see her twice. Once with you up in Albany.
There's a picture of you and her together, right?
Yes, I got to see her at the Scranton Cultural Center and got my picture with her. You'll like this. I handed her my set on a CD, because that's what CD, like, she's gonna freaking listen to it. Whatever. And I gave her my business card. She looked at me like I had 5 heads, and she's like, oh, thanks. So she was a little cool, I will admit. It's not like I could walk out of there and say how nice she was. Jim Gaffigan, I did get a picture with, and he waited when he was like, this is years ago, he waited for every single person in the theater to come out, shook hands with them, took pictures, and he was a little bit more personable. I still love her, but what I was going to say about her is not, I'm a cheerleader for her because I hate what she went through. with the whole Trump thing. And I don't want to get into politics, but I think she got a raw deal because, again, you're holding up an entertainer, a comedian to higher standards than we're holding up world leaders. And she had been death threats, just treated horribly. Nevertheless, what I did want to say about her is I often tell people, even if you don't think she's funny, which is fine, whatever, I admire her as a business person.
Yep.
She is a smart ass business person. And I'm so proud, or not proud, that's condescending, but I'm thrilled for her. And as a woman, fellow woman, that she recently bought the rights to all of her stuff. So now dudes sitting in some office somewhere aren't making money off her shit. She's making money off it. So yeah.
So I agree. So I enjoy her. I enjoy like those comfort sitcoms of like either Golden Girls or Friends that are on. I enjoy watching news shows that make me laugh. Anything it's hard to pinpoint what makes me laugh because I do have kind of like a wide variety. The honesty, the sincerity of something's got to be smart. For like, I really enjoy that smart humor, like the intellectual humor. Not to say that I can't laugh at, someone farting or a dog, swimming in a pool and like, does something silly, those things make me laugh too. But when it comes down to it, like, I like movies I do like those silly movies, like Pee-wee's Big Adventure. I think we both say we both love. Overboard. How many times do we quote that?
Oh, love it. I'm a short, fat slut. Was I also shorter? Honey, you walked with a bad back. I'm sorry. I'll start doing the whole I'll start doing the whole damn I like love Overboard.
It's just a falsetto child. There's just so many good like things like that, or like Really Marie, like from When Harry Met Sally.
Another
like
great
certain
movie.
Quotes of movies just take me back to that moment. I just really love it.
Can I keep this? The pen. May.
Can I keep this pen? Thank you so much. Yeah, from Ghost. I mean, there's just so many. I love Whoopi Goldberg too. Like her comedian, I remember watching her stand-up special, like, oh my God, I was probably 14. And it was Whoopi on Broadway. It was when she did like, I forget the character's name, but she did like the girl with the shirt on her hair because she liked long, luxurious blonde hair, and she did the different characters, and like that was like an acting piece, but it was smart, it was funny, and it was really, really good. So I've enjoyed her career. I don't. It's hard to pinpoint what makes me laugh. It's got to be smart. I know that I keep saying that, but it's true.
All those dick jokes that you like? No, I'm just kidding. I'm
those
busting
are smart,
your ass.
though. Those are funny though. Like,
well, it depends on the joke and who's telling them. Please tell me you don't think every dick joke is funny. I mean, it's smart.
No, of course not. Of course not. No. But there's not, like, for me, like I will forever always say that's what he said or that's what she said.
Well, from the yes. The Office is smart.
But that's smart. Like, and like, yeah. So, but like, if I hear things randomly, like something my husband says or something I hear at work, I don't say it out loud at work. I'll just be in my head. I'm like, that's what she said. Like I work in an industry that has like abbreviations of like wheel tit is something that I see every day. And the Beavis and Butthead in me, who I did not find funny as like when I was in college, Beavis and Butthead, I just didn't find that humorous. I am Beavis and Butthead now, and I see wheel tit on the screen of my computer because I can't help but laugh at it. So I don't know. Maybe I am starting to become a juvenile. I'm going back. We all
have that in us, though. I think because because I agree with you. Like I love, as to your point, as you're saying, smart humor. That's what I like in stand-up. That's what I like in sitcoms. That's like I cannot get into like the like physical humor. It's just not for me. Like the Three Stooges. Like maybe if I sat down and watched one, I'm not telling you I wouldn't laugh once or twice, but that's not really my thing. I don't love physical humor. There are certain, things that other people like just love, and I don't. So I agree with you. I do like smart humor, but I think there's something in us, like the child in us that wants to laugh at like, oh, that says tit. You know what I mean? Like we just like those words that are taboo that we want to giggle at, or when someone breaks wind, come on, of course you're going to laugh, especially if they're not supposed to, or it's like a quiet place,
or in church.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
It's the best thing I remember, and I'm not a church goer now, but I used to remember always like something in church that was funny that I wouldn't have laughed really hard outside of church, but because it happened in church, I would be like just uncontrollably laughing because I was supposed to be quiet at the same time. So things like that always make me laugh. Like where laughing where I'm not supposed to laugh makes me laugh harder. Does that make sense?
It does actually, because that's kind of, when I used to teach the monologue to the students, that's part of teaching humor and like writing about it. It's that incongruity, like things that aren't supposed to be like to match up. That's kind of like when you're looking at like what's funny. Yeah, I mean that's
Yeah, and I'm not a fan of the Three Stooges. And again, I don't want to belabor on things that I don't like, but again, I appreciate that. Like every time I say this, do I always get gasped and people look at me like I have 7 heads and I should just blow up because of what I've said. But Monty Python doesn't make me laugh.
You know what? I'm glad you said that, because when I started taking, well, not the first time, I think, was it the first time I did improv at 2 different points in my life. And I don't know if it was the first time or the second time. A lot of people in my group loved the Holy Grail. They loved, I can tell you, I desperately wanted to like Monty Python, because I'm like, these people I do improv with, they're smart, they're funny. I did not laugh at Monty Python, and I'm like, why don't I like it? Now I will say the one sketch has been referred to even in Truth and Comedy, the one book that we studied, a group of us studied for improv, is just the room to have an argument. That little sketch I kind of laughed at, but a friend of mine gave me a copy. No, oh my gosh, how long ago is this? He gave me, I think, the VHS that I watched.
Oh,
yes. Was it a VHS or maybe? No, I think it was a VHS. I still actually had that. What the hell were they called? VCR. What the hell was that thing called?
What was that thing called?
You shoved something in a little tape or whatever. I watched it, and of course everyone's like, "Oh my God, you've got to watch it." I could not. The Holy Grail. I could not. I didn't watch the whole thing, and I didn't find it that funny. I couldn't get it. I didn't get it. I guess it wasn't my thing.
That is one thing that I wanted to like, because everyone else when they think of comedy, they're always like, that's like, they put that up really high on the list of like, those are one of the funniest skits you'll ever see. And so I'm like, okay, maybe it was built up to me so much. Like I still to this day, I appreciate the acting and the writing of it. It's just that I don't find it humorous and I don't laugh. And I know that I'm like in a very low percentage there. I'm glad that you're in that percentage with me as well.
I think we're in good company, so we're all right. And I don't think we should feel bad or apologize for not liking what other people like. And I know you're not. It's just, but I was like you. I want it desperately, because I'm like, I don't really find this funny.
I think we had a conversation when we were talking about music, about how you liked Coldplay, and 2 musicians were there saying, oh, they're not real music. I feel the same way, like about like, Monty Python, like, well, that's like the upper echelon of comedy. Those are like the comic geniuses. And to me, I was just like, like I didn't find it humorous. And again, the actors, I've loved the actors from that troupe in many different things. Just together, I'd like the Flying Circus and all those movies, just didn't find them humorous. So, but I don't want to dwell on what we don't like.
That's right. We want to talk
about
what
very negative.
I'm thinking of the Kids in the Hall. Do you remember watching that? Because now all of a sudden I'm remembering, I'm crushing your head.
I'm crushing your head.
I'm crushing your head, Dave. Oh my God, Dave Foley, and I forget the other guy's name.
He was in a sitcom too, News Radio.
Yeah, he was in a couple sitcoms. He was in News Radio, and then he came back on with that. Dr. Ken Jeong or something like that. I don't know why I'm saying it like that. Ken Jeong. Ken Jeong. I'm not trying to culturally appropriate.
No, I know.
You know what I'm saying.
He was also in a few episodes of Hot in Cleveland, I believe, too.
Okay. Yeah.
And that's a show that I'm recently rediscovering. I watch it here and there, but I think it's on like Paramount Plus or one of those streaming things that I own every one, and I can't stop buying them. I just bought Apple Plus because something else came on. And
Mark, the other one, Mark McEwen, right? He was also in Kids of the Hall. He was on SNL. He was on, and I loved the show. And I'm talking humor again. Well, I'm very sorry it was taken off the air. Superstore. I really enjoyed that show. And that's Justin Spitzer, who is involved with The Office. I thoroughly enjoyed that show. What's that?
Spitzer swallows.
Hey.
And there's Austin Powers. Something I find funny.
I love Austin Powers too. But I will tell you, I probably I'm laughing for I shouldn't say for the wrong reasons, because there's no wrong reason to laugh. I am not a fan of James Bond, and I know a lot of them are parodies, and so I don't necessarily probably get all the jokes, but I still loved Austin Powers.
Oh yeah. No, I don't think you need. I was a fan of James Bond movies growing up and watched a lot of them with my family, and I still enjoy them as well. The ones with Daniel Craig, although I did not see the last one. Um, you can enjoy those movies without knowing a lot. It takes that. It just takes it to, and a lot of dick jokes.
Yes, yeah, and honestly, who throws a shoe? Really, that really hurts.
There's just really a lot of funny stuff. So I like, again, that's smart writing though, I think. Like, I guess there could be someone here that would, play the devil's advocate and say, well, not really, because blah, blah, blah. But in my opinion, it is, and it makes me laugh. So,
well, and that whole like penis pump, oh, that's not mine, baby. And then it's like, it belongs to Austin Powers. Oh, that's not mine, baby. It is mine, baby. I or like even the massage a little lower. How do you like your massage? I mean, and you're right. Some people go, that's stupid. And I go, okay, well, maybe, but like, I typically like things that I think are pretty smart. So I don't think it's stupid.
Well, it used to be, my mom she never liked stupid humor. Like, she would always say, oh, that's stupid. But she would always say it while she was laughing. Like, she did not like Pee-wee's Big Adventure. Oh, he's so stupid. And she's saying it while she's laughing. And she would laugh and she's like, this is silly. And like, so she's like, I don't like it. It's silly. But she was laughing. So like, I'm like, I was like, so in my head, I'm like, I think like it was doing its job. Like, whatever she was watching, even though she thought, yes, it is silly, it made her laugh. Yeah. And I find that I'm okay with that too. Like, I don't like a lot of physical humor, like Three Stooges, like you had said, although I can watch Jack Tripper fall over like a couch 100 times because I thought John Ritter was brilliant at it. So I do like that type of like physical comedy.
I agree. I do. And he's someone I thought was brilliant too. And this is going to sound very insensitive, but what the hell? I mean, I'm not trying for Mother Teresa Award of the Year, or whatever, if that's such a thing. But recently, a friend of mine,
now. I'm gonna start
Mother Teresa Award of the Year. One of my friends talked about her father, he's had health issues or whatever, and like he's not as strong or sturdy on his feet. And she was talking about being there to help him, and like her brother and her sister-in-law, all these different people helping. And she's like, yeah, because he came over the other day and he was head first in the bushes or whatever. I couldn't help but laugh. And I said to her, I'm sorry. She goes, no, it's okay. She said, because I thought the same thing.
And like, you know what? When I see people fall, no matter where it is, I laugh. My first reaction isn't, oh my God, are you okay? My first reaction is, oh my God, that was so funny. I know that's awful, but if someone,
but
even when
it's
I
human
fall,
nature. It's human nature.
When I fall, I laugh hysterically. I can't help it. Yeah.
No, and it is. We do, and believe me, I'm sure because look at that book studied a lot about laughter and why people laugh. So I'm sure there's studies out there, because most people do when we see people fall, unless it's like a horrific fall. And then you're like, if I saw someone fall overboard of like, off a 50, 100 foot, 200 foot, like, bridge or something, I don't think I'd laugh. Oh God, I certainly hope I wouldn't.
We're laughing now about it, but you're right. I
don't think I'd laugh if it happened for real. No.
But later, after I take my phone and rewatch it again, boy, I'll be chuckling.
No, but like tripping over a crack, and of course, and that brings us full circle. I'm thinking of Ellen DeGeneres' stand-up. She used to do a bit about that, like when she would trip over a crack and she'd be like, "Oh, I was just about to start jogging anyway. Here we go." Like because you're like trying to play it off very cool, and I think that's very, very relatable humor. Is good.
And I do enjoy Ellen, and that monologue. That was her conversation with God, right? That was her.
Yes. Yeah. And why? And now I don't know if you knew this. I didn't. So that's why I'm sharing it. When I just did a little bit reading articles about that special, and like she was the first female comedian to be asked over by Johnny, which for all comedians, male or female, was thought to be a really big deal. If he said, come on over and have a seat, and he wanted to talk to you, that was supposed to be like an honor. But I had read that she wrote that part of that monologue was inspired by the fact that her girlfriend had been killed in an automobile accident. I don't know exactly when, but let's say sometime not that long ago before this appearance. And she said she was living in this like, really cheap apartment with fleas. And she was upset over the loss of her girlfriend dying. Like, why does she have to die? And what is the purpose of these fleas? And she had said that inspired her to write this piece that she wanted to do. And like, have this conversation with God and ask him, what's the purpose of fleas? And to me, and again, things get spun and they they could become more romanticized, whatever. So
Sure.
who knows what the real truth is when it happened. But I love that idea because here it is, everyday humor, and not just everyday life, but tragedy too.
Yeah.
And the idea that I've learned with the different conferences that I've been through is that like humor is tragedy plus time. Now that time is different for everyone. You know what I mean? Someone who's, let's say someone going through a divorce, they could be making jokes about their ex 2 days later, after the separation, whereas someone else might be like, that's not funny. They might need months. They might need a
Right.
year, because not everyone's time calendar is the same, but it's
Right.
tragedy. They say tragedy plus time. So here she has this tragedy, and it's the absurdity of, why did my young girlfriend in her 20s get killed? And yet there's fleas that exist on this planet. And I'm going to
Yeah.
ask God about that. I think that's a beautiful like sentiment, that she would turn what was a really sad, raw thing into one of her greatest monologues, and probably is what got her, I won't say probably, it was what got her noticed by people.
Yeah. I agree with that. And I always try to deal with things that happen, serious things that happen in my life, with humor. I always say that's my go-to. Like I'd rather just look at it in a humorous way. I always said there should be like sympathy cards that have a humor to them. I know that I'm rare in that. Like most people need those comforting words and stuff. But for me, it'd be like, I'd rather just laugh about it and be like, because humor is really something that I fall on like every day to get me through. If you can't laugh, if I can't find something humorous about the day, we all have stresses, we all have ailments, we all have everything. I go with humor. Like that's why like I put on comfort shows, like, like I'll just, because I know that I'm going to belly laugh if I watch a Friends episode or a Golden Girls. It's going to make me laugh, and that's going to get me through. And you know what? That's okay. But you have to put humor into your life. It's more important than breathing.
And I mean, not to go back to me like doing as part of my business, and believe me, it's like laughter's not making me a lot of money, but it's not about money. It's about it's about awareness and telling people like, I mean, maybe people just don't think about it because it seems trivial, but humor and laughter are such great resources and great tools to have in our life's toolbox, that for so many people it's life's I used to talk about this when I did go out and speak to different groups. Viktor Frankl is a man. I'm not sure if you're familiar with him. He wrote the book Man's Search for Meaning, and he was in a Nazi work camp, and he was a psychologist who did survive, obviously, to write this book. But he talked about how horrific it was there. They were, their clothing was threadbare. They weren't sure one day or the next if they'd be sent off to the gas chamber, or they were doing this horrible labor out in freezing temperatures. And I always reference him because he talked about how he would find moments. I'm just talking moments to laugh. And he said that, and I'm going to mess up the quote, but I'm going to paraphrase, humor was the soul's tool of self-preservation. So I used to reference him because I think, and again, I'm not holding myself up as anything as a special example, because when things happen to me, I will admit I do sweat small stuff. I'm like, mother effing, I curse like a sailor with a bad case of Tourette's. I go crazy, but at least I'm self-aware. And then I go, okay, Janine,
Right.
let's take this down a notch. And I do see the incredible power of humor. But I think if that gentleman and he only found it by thinking of things outside of those walls, like what happened before, thinking about something that gave him a moment of humor, that gave his soul preservation. It helped him get through that. So I used to say, if he could do that, how could we not do something to help ourselves stuck in traffic? We're stuck in freaking traffic, people, or missing an appointment, or, even being late with a bill, or feeling like we need to do better in our lives because there's so much pressure and we're overweight, we're this, we're that. Okay, take a beat, take a breath, and use what you need to get through, as long as you're not hurting anyone, laugh as much as you can.
Yeah, and don't get me wrong, I'm human too. When I
You're not.
I know, I'm a deity.
I thought you
see me
were a
glowing,
droid like me.
See, look, watch my face go distorted here. Ooh, for those who are watching. I know. Of course, we're all human. We all have those days, but and of course, like I get angry and mad and and yell at something. Like at my computer screen, I yell all the time at work. But then I'm like, you know what? I've learned a lot to let it go. that I was not familiar with who you just spoke about, but it did remind me of the movie Life is Beautiful. Did you ever see that? It was a foreign film of Roberto Benigni.
No, I know it was up for an
Okay.
Oscar, right? I did not see it. I
It
wanted
was,
to.
and it was about like him being in a concentration camp during World War II, and him with his son, and just trying to make his son feel like it wasn't horrible. Like, so he made it a game and he made it fun for him, and it was just it's a sad movie, but it is joyful in the fact that what the father was trying to do for his son while they were in this horrific place. So that it reminded me a lot of that. Like, they found humor in the worst of places. And when we're stuck in traffic, I sometimes will think about, okay, I'm not in it, things aren't that bad.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
Really, Marie?
Yeah, really, Marie, calm down. Yeah. No, but you're right. I mean, the initial human reaction is to, and like you said, your computer, I'm always cursing at my computer and stuff. And I'll admit, sometimes I let that shit go on way too long, where I'm dwelling about something I should have done, or, creating a narrative in my head. Why isn't this person getting back to me? Are they mad? Are they not happy with my work? Are they this, they that? And I'll admit, I mean, again, we're all human, and it goes too far. And it's like, I used to talk about, again, when I would go out and do these workshops, these corporate workshops and conferences, like, people think I'm always laughing. I wake up, I start laughing. It never ends. The hilarity never ends. And I'm like, no, because I'm human. And it's like, maybe because I need it as much or more than anyone else myself, but not to seem like a hypocrite, but I'm human. So yes, that's my reaction. But one thing I can tell you when I talk about this is that, which I do believe in what I'm saying. I do believe, I know after I lead a session of laughter yoga, how good I feel. I feel cleansed. I feel lighter. And I've had people come up to me and tell me this. A woman's mother told me about how she had been on pills for depression, and that she never, like, she really felt good. The one thing I am sorry about, or not sorry about, but I wish it was different. I always tell people, much like running, because I get a similar feeling from exercise, I wish we could bottle it. I really do, because I know how I feel after even a good conversation with a friend, like with you, or meeting a friend for coffee and laughing, and you have that good feeling that, laughter gives us that boost of endorphins and oxytocin, which is that like love kind of hormone. We feel good, but it doesn't, unfortunately, last a really long time.
Right.
And I often say, I wish I could bottle it and put it into a little atomizer and a little spritz later, like, I feel so much better now. Ooh, Lordy, I need a little spritz of laughter. Sorry for that accent. I apologize. I apologize.
Ooh, Lordy. Were you down here in North Carolina? What's going on?
Well, I'm getting ready for my visit, because isn't that how everyone's going to talk? I'm going to get off the plane and go, where can I find myself some coffee?
You'll be surprised. No, that's not how people talk.
People look at me like, what?
But a lot of people here are actually, believe it or not, from the North.
They're Yankees.
They're Yankees. I'm a Yankee.
And you know what movie just popped into my head?
Casablanca.
Richard, no.
Gone with the Wind.
Tommy Boy.
Oh, I've seen it. I don't know it very well.
David Spade was that. That's another, again,
Chris
you want to talk
Farley?
silly makes me laugh. Fat guy in a little coat, guy putting on a coat that's too small for him, rip, and it makes me laugh. But David Spade was at the window watching a beautiful girl, and then of course he was feeling a little aroused. So Tommy Boy comes in the room and he's like, what you doing? And he starts referencing things like, there you go, dick joke, Spanky. Is he a member of the New York Yankees? So there you go.
Excellent. And it's so bad how, I don't know where my mind is, but you said Southern accent. I was like, what am I thinking of? I was like, Casablanca. I'm like, Casablanca? What? I meant Gone with the Wind, but one of those old movies that I actually don't like.
What?
I'm like, why did I say that? Why did that come in my head? So that's stupid humor right here. All up in here. My brain not working.
All up in here. Well, you know what? And I know you're going to say, oh, hey, you've had shows over an hour. We've definitely gone over an hour.
Have we? Okay. All right.
We have.
Then zip.
We have. So you can't go, hey, you let other guests go longer than an hour. Why do you shut me down?
Aren't I a bitch?
No, you're not.
No, stop.
But I know I like to try to keep them to a little bit, not much longer than an hour, because, I figure people don't listen, but that's okay. I mean, we're doing it for ourselves anyway, but no, I'm going to take that back. We're enjoying it for ourselves, but I really do hope that people listen and get some kind of enjoyment from this. They laugh a little, they learn something, maybe get a little new perspective. Anything good that you can take from this podcast, this episode or any episode, I am grateful for. So, we'll chat after the cast, after the pod. After the cast. So, okay. So thank you, Oliver, for joining me today on your special day, your birthday. Happy birthday. I love you.
Thank you.
Any
I love
final
you too.
words to say to the audience for all those folks listening?
Laugh. Life is too short. That's it.
Amen. Amen.
Amen, sister.
Amen. Can I get an amen? All right. Hey, oh, hey, oh. All right. Well, thank you for listening. Thank you. Now we're getting goofy. Thank you for joining me, Oliver. And I cannot wait to visit you in person. And I will, of course, probably have to do something from down in North Carolina. I'll be recording something for Uncorked.
You'll have to do the entire episode in a Southern accent, though.
Oh my gosh. There are wineries I want to visit, so I'll have to walk in there. Hey, y'all, you have anything like a Chardonnay or maybe a Chenin Blanc?
They're going to look at each other and go like, Yankee.
Yankee trying to fit in. Oh, she's hilarious. Okay. All right. So now here's my wrap up. So I want to thank my audience for listening. If you've made it this far, I owe you a mug or something, or a magnet. So message me if you've listened to this entire episode. But thank you. If you're still listening, thank you so much for tuning in. As I always say, make sure you subscribe and share if you like it. And if you don't, tell your goldfish, tell your dog, or message me privately, because I love hate mail. No, but seriously, thank you for listening. I appreciate you from the bottom of my heart and the bottom of my wine glass.